Hey, it's Brian with the Midnight Mechanic. Today we're going to show you how to replace the ignition tumbler in your 1988 to 1994 Chevy or GMC full-size truck. Now that's the GMT 400 platform, but this steering column is very similar to ones that General Motors used through the 60s, 70s, and 80s in these trucks up into the 90s before they went to the airbag. It's pretty easy to do. You might have to get some special tools. We'll show you what you need to do and how to do it. So the truck we're doing this on is a 1993 GMC Sierra. Now, more than likely, we're going to strip this thing for parts because it is really smashed up in the front. We bought it at auction and it didn't come with any keys, but the engine is worth a whole lot more if we can show it running. Plus, it's easier to sell a steering column if you have keys for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace it. We're going to see if the engine runs, and then we're going to go ahead and start stripping it. But the first thing is we need to put that new ignition tumbler in there so we can get the engine turned over and even get the steering wheel turned a little bit so we can go ahead and get this on the lift a lot easier. First thing we need to do is remove the steering wheel. We need to access the nut that's in the middle that holds the steering wheel on. The horn button is right here. Obviously it's kind of in the way, so you just need to pop it off. Just grab it and it pops right off. It has this little spring clip right here that keeps it held on. Now we can access the inside of the steering wheel where it has this nut. We take that nut off and we have a tool use to go ahead and attaches to those two holes there and a centering pin right there that'll draw it off of the car. Now here's the kit we're going to use to get the steering wheel off. You can see this thing right here goes in the center and it has a pin that points to the center of that nut. Then what we're going to do is in these grooves here, we're going to take the bolt that matches the thread that's in there. Then you draw it in and it pulls the steering wheel back off. It's really easy to use. We got this off of Amazon. It was like $25, but we're going to show you how to use it and how easy it is to get the steering wheel off. First thing we're going to do is remove this nut here because that's what's holding the steering wheel on. And if we don't take that off, the tool that we put on there won't actually pull it off because it's still bolted on. So we're going to go ahead and buzz this one off real fast. It's a 21 millimeter. So here's the tool right here. We have it set up right here by threading this in. Those two bolts I showed you earlier, that's where these go in. What you're going to do is you're going to bolt it down into those holes with these bolts that come in the kit. You want to have it set up so they bolt in and you can center the tool up in the middle of the shaft there. We're going to tighten it up just a little bit to make sure they don't back out. And now hand thread it in and make sure that it's centered where it needs to be centered on that stud. Now that we have it set up correctly, we can go ahead and tighten this down. And what will happen is as that pushes down, it's going to pull on the steering wheel and pop it off those splines. Just like that. So now we need to go ahead and remove the hazard switch here because it goes into the column into something we need to remove. It's just a Phillips screwdriver. So we're just going to stick it in there and unscrew it. Now set it aside with the hardware so you don't lose it. Now there's two things you need to remove. Down here, there's a Torx bit, and that's what holds this ring in here. And then right here, there's a snap ring. What you actually have to do is you have to compress this black ring here in order to get that snap ring off. So once you get the snap ring off and you get that bolt out, then you can remove this black piece right here. The next thing we need to do is remove that snap ring that's right there. This middle piece is spring loaded, so you need to press it down in order to get that out. We're going to do this with this. This is a compressor, and what it does is this gold piece screws on right here, and then as you tighten down this nut, it pushes this big U down on this plate right here. Ours is very, very old. As you can see, we've heated it and bent it and cut it and done all kinds of stuff over the years to it to make it work. You can buy a much better one on Amazon, which we probably should do, and we probably will after this because this one is getting a little cracked and probably seen better days. But we're going to show you how to use this. It's pretty easy. Even janked and crappy like ours is, it's still pretty easy to use. So here's how this works. You screw this gold piece down right there on to that thread where the nut was. You're going to tighten it all the way down just to keep it tight. Now this part right here, you're going to want to go on the metal pieces. You don't want to go through here and hit the plastic. You want it on the metal. Now with ours, we just need to take 2 wrenches. And we're going to hold one here to keep it from spinning. And tighten this one down. It gets a little funny when you're trying to get it on here, mostly because ours is so old and beat up. But now you can start tightening it down. As you tighten it down, you're going to have to reset if you're something like ours. Ours is really old and really beat up. As you tighten it down, it will press that in and expose that snap ring. You can see that snap ring is no longer sitting underneath that ring. Now we can come in with a mechanic's pick, and I'm going to go in and pull that ring off. Once it's off, you can go ahead and start removing this compressor. I set this tool to the side because you're going to reuse it when you reinstall it. Here's that little ring, snap ring. Just set that aside too so you don't lose it. With that off, you can come in here with your torque screw and remove the screw. Once it's all the way off, you can remove this entire thing. Once that ring is off, come and remove these two, this and this spring, and set them aside. Now this is the turn signal assembly. This little rod here goes down, so when you turn your turn signal, it locks this one direction or the other. You're going to remove this, and once you remove that, then the turn signal stalk won't be attached to it anymore. There's a screw right here you're going to remove, and there's a screw right here. Once you take this off, what you're going to do is you're just going to click it over one so you can remove these 2 screws. There's a retaining screw for this right behind it. So you have to take this off in order to get to it. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and remove these 3 screws and bend this back out of the way. Those screws out, you can wiggle it out of the way. And what you're going to do is once you get it out, you're just going to move it off to the side. With this out of the way, we're going to remove this clip right here that goes in the hole, and that little screw that's behind it is the retaining screw. So this one you can kind of grab and pull out. It's easier sometimes if you have a mechanic's pick. You can go in, kind of hook behind it, and pull it out. Make sure you don't lose it. This right here, you can see it slides down in the hole right there. There's a little retaining clip, like a snap ring clip, snap clip that's in there that you'll have to push up sometimes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this screw right here. Get out of the way. And then I'm going to stick this mechanic's pick in the hole here until I feel, there it is. You can clip it up and slide it out. See right there in the bottom, there's a little notch there. That's where that clip is. I don't know why this thing won't focus. So reinstalling is just the same. Here is our new tumbler. We're going to insert it right in there. Then we're going to come and install this. Then don't forget to slide this back in there. It slides in like this with those brass parts facing upwards. Once that is in, you can come and slide this back over and reinstall it. Make sure it's seated all the way on before you install those screws. Now we're going to go ahead and install the screws. Now that it's there, you can click it back up so it's in the neutral position, and you can install your bracket here. Make sure that this little arm here goes in this little triangle down there. You can kind of see it there. You're going to make sure that that goes in there. So get it in that little triangle. And make sure that this is up here. Now you can install this piece. The way it goes on is set it down until it goes all the way down. It's going to be where this one's kind of facing like that and comes through there. Now it's on correctly. You can then come in with this, and it fits around these to where you can get it in and then rotate it to where it needs to be to get those things correct there, to get these bolt holes lined up. So once that's on there and lined up, you need to reinstall your spring clip. We're going to do that by reusing our little bracket tool here. So we're going to get this on. Once that's on tight and in the right spot, we're going to go ahead and start tightening that down so we can get that spring clip on. Now it's slid all the way down and sat in that groove that's down there. Once that's on, we can go ahead and remove this tool. Now we can install the two retaining screws for this. One is right here. The other one is hard to see because it's right under this. Unfortunately, our steering wheel was turned just a little bit when we had to replace this, so this little notch is not lined up correctly. So we can get this one in. This one's going to be a little tricky, so we're going to have to kind of snake it in over top of that, but we're going to be able to get it in there. So what I'm going to do now, because it's difficult to get that one screw in, is I'm going to stick the steering wheel on and try and center it up the best I can, and then I'm going to install that screw in there. Once that's done, I'll pull the steering wheel back off, put that screw in there, and reinstall the steering wheel so it's centered. Since we have a new ignition switch, I can go ahead and turn the ignition on. Now those holes are lined up, so I can go ahead and reinstall that screw. With it centered, I'm going to go ahead and center up my steering wheel. So this right here goes through this hole in the steering wheel. And I'm realizing our frame is so bent now that our steering wheel is just sitting like this instead of lined up. If you look inside here, this top hole right here, the big one, you can kind of see in there. I don't know if you remember the white part that was poking up that we installed. That goes in that hole right there. With this on and everything and centered up correctly, we can install the big nut in the middle. So just hand tighten it, and then you can come in with your impact. Make sure it's good and tight. You don't want your steering wheel popping off. After that, don't forget your little hazard thing that goes right in here. So we're going to reinstall that now too. Now clip your horn button back on. The job's complete. Your ignition works just like it should. There you go, something really easy to do as long as you have the right tools and you know what you're doing. It's basically just removing things down and down until you get to where that lock tumbler retaining screw is at. You got to make sure you have the right tools. Make sure you have a steering wheel puller and that little compressor tool. I'm probably going to buy a new one tonight. Ours is a little rough. It was really frustrating to use, and that's probably about 30 years old, and it's about time to get a new one. If you need those tools, you can get them down below. There's links down below in the description. And you can buy all the parts you need off of Amazon, and all the links are down below. If there's anything else you'd like to learn about, any other tools you'd like to see, post down below in the comments. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Midnight Mech, TikTok at The Midnight Mechanic, and check our business page, Shuck Auto. We'll see you guys next time.